I'm like, oh, hi.
This Hangout on air is live.
So, hey, you guys, did you get to the Hangout through the link on the website? Okay. Could you go to...
You know what? Forget it. Let's just record, and I will be on both. Your microphone, because you're going to be feeding back through to ours. Either exit out or mute your microphone. Yeah, minor. Let's see. I see one more person has chimed in there. Lena, are you there? It looks like you're muted. You may have to click the mute button to unmute yourself. We can't hear you, Lena. Anyway, let's just get going here. So, okay, briefly introduce myself. I am Jacob Hickman. I'm the director of all things Hmong in Thailand this summer in 2017. I am an assistant professor of anthropology here at BYU in the Department of Anthropology, BYU Provo. Okay, she just can't unmute right now. Since 2010. I've been conducting research in Hmong communities around the globe since 2004, effectively. I've done extended bouts of fieldwork with Hmong communities in Alaska, Minnesota, shorter spurts in California. I've spent a total of, at this point, about 2 full years in Thailand doing research in Hmong communities there. Laos for a few weeks, Vietnam for several months, China for several months, and France for several months. I worked my way into a career where I can chase Hmong people around the globe for fun and as a profession. So I'll tell you a little bit about the Hmong diaspora. I see Connor's getting excited there. Yeah, basically the whole point here is to me give you just some basic information, as well as be able to get together as a group and collectively answer any questions that you might have about what the program looks like this summer. Now, there are 2 elements. First point of business, there are 2 elements to the program I'm directing this summer, which is a little bit different from my former programs, if you're familiar with my former programs, which is there's a field school element, and field school basically means it's an ethnographic research program. If you're majoring in anthropology here at BYU, you know exactly what that means. If you're not, basically what is entailed is we train you as a cultural researcher. You get ethnographic research training, and so you get trained sort of in the theoretical principles of doing ethnographic research, namely through lectures about once a week. And then the rest of the time you spend out actually applying those research methods, conducting research on some topic with an eye towards potentially publishing that research in anthropology, or maybe cultural studies or Southeast Asian studies. Basically, whatever you're majoring in, we can potentially accommodate some topic where you could publish something relevant to whatever discipline it is that you're coming from. I'm looking at people in the room here, and I think the vast majority of you are anthropology, or maybe international development, or some unholy mixture of both of those things. With that category, actually, I think. There's the field school side of it, which is basically research intensive, going out and doing cultural research, or ethnographic research, as we say in anthropology. And the other side of that is we do have an international development internship program that's part of the program this year. The cost is the exact same for both, and basically all the group travel we will all do as a big group. But the difference is the day in and day out activities that you would do. Those who are doing international development internships will spend their days with these local Thai run and operated NGOs who are doing development work. These are NGOs run by Thais for Thai society to address problems and issues in Thai society. So what we call them indigenous NGOs. So as opposed to being some organization, that is the brainchild of some well-intentioned American who wants to go change the world, rather than that model, this is a sort of grassroots development model, all of these organizations. And we can tell you a little bit about what some of those organizations look like and what they do. By the way, do you have a spreadsheet? Did you ever get a spreadsheet from Reed? Yeah. Maybe you could pull that up and kind of set it in front of me if you would. So I have those notes. Okay, so those are the two distinct purposes. You can basically apply under either one of those. And what that would look like, basically the application process is the same regardless of which one you want to do. Just in the statement, the short statement you have to write a paragraph about your interest and why you want to do this program, you would indicate there whether or not you're sort of thinking the field school side or the internship side. Let's see here. And I'm going to try and share my screen. Oh, there we go. Screen share. Let's just do my entire screen. Bum, bum, bum. That's right. We just went meta, didn't we? Okay. And we'll make it full screen so that we don't have that craziness. Okay. So the first, if you haven't been here yet and you don't know any of this information yet, the clearinghouse for information is this URL right here. I'll make this a little bit bigger. Those of you looking from elsewhere can see it. Okay, great. Okay, so let me just walk through this really quick. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you because that'd be a waste of time. But my website is jacobrhickman.com. Just put my middle initial in there and you've got it. Or jacobrhickman.byu.edu, same thing. If you go to my home page, if you forget the you just go here and you click on this little field school thing and it'll take you directly to this information page. Here is basically a little bit broad strokes. The absolute details like the exact cost of the program and that, these are all estimates because basically some of those details won't be penned out until we actually know exactly how many people are going on the program and so on, right? But this gives you the basic information. Anything beyond this, contact myself or Talisha and Madison and we can get you answers to those questions. Sorry. Venice and Madison, the two of you are just, won my mind apparently. Okay, so there's a description of it here. And frankly, this description is a little bit more field school heavy. If you want to know more about the International Development Internship Program, you can click on this little apply now to the Kennedy Center webpage, which actually focuses on the development stuff, which I'm not sure why that, well, I guess we just can't link to. You know what we should do is we should create another link. We'll add another link, but on this page itself, you could find the other Thailand program. You just search for Thailand up here. And Really quick, while this is loading, I think, is this it? Thailand Mentored Research, probably? Nope, that was last summer. I don't know why Thailand Development is the only one there. Can you look into that, please? Okay, sorry, little glitch there. Going back here, so on this website for information. And if you have questions, then you can get to us. But basically, just to explain, both of those of you here at BYU as well as you out there in Google Hangout land, international programs at BYU have to go through the Kennedy Center for International Studies, which means you don't apply directly with me, you do their application. And if you click on this apply now thing, it's going to both give you that information. I'll click on it one more time just to show you. It'll give you that information about the program, but it will also have a link where you can go and apply. If you've never been a BYU Provo student, you'll have to create a net ID, and anybody can do that. You don't have to be a BYU student to apply for the program nor attend the program. You would be registered as a BYU student for the duration of the program, and we can talk about that if any of you who are out there who are not currently BYU Provo students, what that would look like. But basically, you have to apply. There's this big, huge apply now button right there on the right, where you basically go and you'd either log in with your BYU credentials or create those BYU credentials and then log in. All the explanation is right there on that website. But you apply through the Kennedy Center website. My website is for information to direct you to that application. And that's because BYU has policies and procedures with regards to international programs, and all of that is coordinated through the Kennedy Center. The Kennedy Center charges you an application fee of $35. That basically pays for the backpack that you get when you go out to the field. Okay. But just so you know, that is a non-refundable application fee. So, you know, serious, go apply now. If you're thinking about not sure if it's a good fit, you may want to talk to me before you're applying, unless you just don't care about the $35, I suppose. Okay. What a field school is, you know, some of the program details. Prerequisites, basically if you're an anthropology major here at BYU, you are required to take the 442 class. So if you're planning on going on this program in this coming summer, 42 next semester in the winter, okay? If you're not a BYU Provo student, that doesn't apply. Although I would highly recommend that you take the equivalent of Introduction to Cultural Anthropology wherever you are a student prior to this program. It's not absolutely required, but it's highly recommended, assuming some analog to that type of course would be offered wherever you are, mainly for you, those of you out there in Google Hangout land. Also, if you are a student, I am requiring that you take a 3-credit Hmong language, culture, and history course, which is not yet listed, but it will be listed soon, Tuesday, Thursday, 9:30 to 10:45. For those of you anthro majors, this is a people's class, so it fills people's credit in our curriculum. It's Anthropology 327, and basically that will be a mix of language training as well as readings about Hmong culture and history. There's a heavy language component within that course itself. And the goal of that class is to get you to have a very basic conversational competency in Hmong, but to know enough about the language where you could hack your way through a transcript with dictionary in hand and so on. You'd know enough about the grammar to introduce yourself and really impress Hmong families once you get to Thailand and get them speaking to you in ways where you immediately are beyond your capacity because they're so impressed that you can say like 10 words. You'll learn many more than 10 words. But the goal of that class, I mean, nobody's getting fluent in any language in a semester course, but the goal is basically focusing on linguistic skills that can aid you in your research. And we can talk about that. But if you're a current BYU student, I'm requiring that as a prerequisite. If there's some fundamental problem with taking that course, let me know and we can talk about it, okay? Field itself, most students, and there are some exceptions, but most students will take either 9 or 12 credits. And I lost it here, you'll have to log it back in. You'll take either 9 or 12 credits. On the internship side, take say 6 credits of the IAS 399R internship. On the cultural anthropology side, typically you'll take what we call our ethnographic field project course, 6 credits of that. That's Anthropology 5R. So the internship would be the internship credit. The field school would be the ethnographic field project credit. And then on top of that, most students will take a 3-credit, basically, culture class. Either in most cases it would be a Hmong culture class. There's some options that are laid out on the Kennedy Center site: applied anthropology, psychological anthropology, and so on. And those are largely readings courses that supplement the work that we're doing while we're in the field. Development is also a possibility for those of you international development oriented people as well. But basically, everybody will take a minimum of 9 credits outside of circumstances. And some of you, if you need 12 credits, either to fill those credits or because of scholarship opportunities, you can take 9 or 12. If you have questions, let me know right now, and we can entertain those. Raising hand. During the summer, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So,
I was like, who's speaking? Go ahead.
sorry, so when did it begin?
When does what begin? Okay. Yeah, when does your semester end up there at BYU Idaho? Oh, wow. Yeah, that frankly wouldn't be compatible with our schedule, because our program starts May 21st and ends August 12th. So you're talking about basically mostly overlapping with the semester at BYU Provo. And actually, just to be clear, the schedule for our program is the schedule for a program. It doesn't actually follow the spring, summer dates for even BYU Provo. It's the time that it makes sense to start and end. It's about 12 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, but we meet in Bangkok on May 21st, and you are done with the program August 12th, I believe it was. Is that right? August 12th? Meaning that students are expected to be there in the program from the start date to the end date. Answer your question? Maybe in a not so pleasing way. But basically, it sounds to me like it would be incompatible with that term. Now, I have had BYU Idaho students in the past who basically apply for an exception because they take BYU Provo credits during that same term that overlaps with it, and then they just take the BYU Provo credits and transfer it back. Case for any of you who are coming from another university, you will get BYU Provo course credit and grades and so on. And basically, typically the game is figuring out how we can really translate those credits back to your home institution to fulfill whatever curricular needs you have in your major at your home university, basically. Okay. Real quick, you're debating between the Namibia and Thailand programs, yeah? Okay, come talk to me sometime, yeah. Okay. Cost laid out here is an estimate on how many students we enroll in the program. On that, we're going to decide what our collective travel looks like. The general idea is the program fee includes your living expenses, so you live with a host family, 2 meals a day, that's included in that, and then all of our group travel that we do. So we will start in Bangkok, we'll cover, starting May 21st, your housing every night, assuming you're not off traveling by yourself, is covered by the program, right? So what that means is that we have a host family for you while we're in and around Chiang Mai, and then while we're traveling as a group, like in Bangkok, or if we go up to Chiang Rai, or if we go to non-province, or go see different cultural and historical sites around Thailand, we cover the hotels for all of that, okay? Now, if you go travel off by yourself, that's on you. But we will have a place for you to sleep every single night from May 21st to August 12th, as well as while you're with a host family, 2 meals a day. Now, while we're in travel mode, you're on your own for food, with the exception of that I end up covering a lot of meals when we go get noodles together or whatever. But outside of that, you're on your own for meals while we're in travel status. But it's also the case that you can get a solid, very good meal for $1. So food is relatively cheap and very good, I might add. The cost breakdown is tuition plus the program fee. And tuition, whether you're LDS or non-LDS, if you don't know about BYU, basically there's sort of an in-state, out-of-state like tuition mechanism, but it has to do with whether or not you're LDS, because basically the LDS church heavily subsidizes tuition here. There's a higher tuition rate for non-LDS students and so on. But basically there's tuition plus the program fee, and the program fee was in the neighborhood of $3,500, right? And that may come down if we have a higher number of students. There's an economy of scale thing going on, and also depending on the trip that we do. But that's the best estimate I can give you right now. The major thing that is not included in that expense is your flight to and from Thailand. Now, if we fly to Vietnam as a group for our international trip, that will be covered in that program fee and so on. And you'll pay tuition directly to the university the way you pay tuition any other semester, but then the program fee will be charged by the Kennedy Center. They'll start charging your account in smaller increments once you're formally accepted into the program. Okay? On that, let me know. There's a little thing here on the application process. The deadline is December 1st. However, if you're serious about the program, I encourage you to apply earlier. That allows us to do a little bit more advanced planning and so on. So if you're serious about it, I can start interviewing and accepting people into the program like immediately. But if you know you really want to participate in this program, please do an application like, you know, tomorrow. A couple of quick notes. You don't have to submit, but give us contact information. Just in the text box, give us contact information for 2 personal professional references, okay? And your letter of intent, you don't have to go crazy, but just write us a paragraph giving us a sense of what you want to do and why and how, okay? As well as any language skills that you may have. What your major is, you know, the basic details. Okay. Thailand?
Yes.
You know, that's just so you know, that's something, that's a filler that the coder who coded that module for me put in there. No, not you. You didn't design the slideshow. But when the pictures don't show up for some reason, it was one of our computer people on the 3rd floor. Okay, so we will go ride some elephants. And I know people have varying opinions about that. I mean, it's a thing that people do, and I can justify it by, if you want to understand tourism in Thailand, you go do participant observation with the people riding elephants. There'll be opportunities to go do agricultural work with the Hmong people in northern Thailand. Many of them, the majority of them, are still doing agriculture, semi-subsistence agriculture. And so there will be opportunities to go harvest corn, plant. During the time that we're there, people will have planted their rice. There may be opportunities at the very beginning to go plant rice or go harvest lychees and so on. The food in Thailand is so good. And it's safe. I've gotten any foodborne illness in Thailand in the 2 years that I worked there. I did get sick. What's that? Brendan and I did get sick in Vietnam once that we were pretty sure was foodborne. And we're not even that careful. Like, it's nothing like, if you've traveled in Latin America or in Mexico or Guatemala, it's nothing like that as far as the level of food safety concerns. I mean, you still have to be smart, right? Like, if I'm like, we eat street food all the time, and it's just good and you know, safe. Anyway, we'll go up in the mountains. You know, here was a group of our students who got all decked out and did, you know, they learned a Hmong dance and did a Hmong dance for the community, which they did. Anyway, yeah, there's bamboo. So you're living with a host family. This is just a picture to show you what a typical accommodation might. Things have ranged from the mattress on the floor in a concrete room to a really nice bed in a newly tiled, relatively lavish place. It's probably much nicer than the apartment you're living in now. There's basically a range, right? And so this is kind of a typical student. Basically, when you live with a host family, they will put you in one of the rooms in their house, and we go with who's willing to put up our students, right? So it may, like I say, range from we're maybe not as posh as your apartment, depending on what your student apartment looks like, to even in some cases possibly even much, much better. But just to give you a sense of what that looks like. You know, street photos of Bangkok at night. So this is in northern Vietnam. I'm trying to get approval for us to do our, as a group, to go to Burma, which maybe I shouldn't say on the webcam, whatever. But there's an approval process to get that through because Burma's on the no travel list for BYU, and I'm trying to get an exception because it's been stabilized politically in recent years. But if we weren't to do that, the other likelihood is that we'd go to Vietnam. I'm quite well been there a number of times and done field work there. Camp. There are temples all over the place. So just to give you a sense about Chiang Mai. Chiang Mai is one of my favorite cities in the world. And, you know, I've traveled a bit, and it's thing about Chiang Mai as a city. It's has the modern, as it were, of, you know, having some sort of, it has like the modern malls and like, you know, the really, you know, modernist stuff that you want as a Western, that many Westerners want. It has all the sort of modern trappings of a big city, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like a big city. It feels like a smaller town. It's the old city still has laws that you can't build buildings, you know, above a certain height and so on. They're in the old city. There's still the moat surrounding the old city. There are remnants of the imperial wall. There are Buddhist temples just left and right. It is an amazing place that is just saturated with, you know, fun cultural stuff. I mean, as an anthropologist, there's just, you know, interesting things going on all the time. And it's just a great place to be. I mean, I love, as far as places just to chill and be, Chiang Mai is at the top of my list of places where I've traveled and been. So just so you know, that's something to look forward to. Yeah, Hmong lady. Oh, khao soi. Chiang Mai noodles is one of the best dishes. It's this curry noodle dish that has both hard fried noodles and soft noodles, and anyway, it's a beautiful thing, and you can get it all over the place in Chiang Mai. Even vegetarian version, very good vegetarian versions for those of you who are vegetarians. These are some street vendors who are actually Hmong from the village that I work in. Yeah, Buddhist temple. They're all over the place. We will go see in tuk-tuks. Is, you know, one of the modes of transportation, a little bit more expensive than the songtaos, which are the red trucks. Alice will go visit that. If you don't know, the king just passed away, like something like that. But we will talk about the politics and all that stuff in the prep class. market, floating market, shaman ceremonies. So we will probably have plenty of opportunities to go see shaman ceremonies, other forms of traditional ritual, and so on. For some of you, that will be the locus of your ethnographic research, as well as Christian stuff, of course. So yeah, let's see. I'm going to go off of screen share mode here. Yeah, stop screen sharing. Okay. So maybe the last thing that I'll say before we open it up for questions is sort of what I can look like on that sort of day in and day out basis. For the internships, shoot, can you come in, log in one more time? For the internships, you will basically be working 40 hours a week-ish. It'll vary slightly from organization to organization, but you'll be working with organizations, basically doing whatever it is they need you to do. And there is some leeway with what we can match you to do. There are things ranging from English teaching, working in a women's shelter or a children's shelter, orphanages, special education centers. We've put people with municipality, but that hasn't worked out as well as we would like in the past. Refugee camp, but it's 4 hours away, and we probably won't put anybody with the refugee camp this time around, although there's other sorts of services that one could explore. But basically, that's just to give you a basic sense of the range of internships where we place students in the past. I have a colleague there in Chiang Mai who works to facilitate those connections, and we've maintained, BYU has maintained, my other colleagues who have run the International Development Internship Program in the past. We have a long-running set of relationships with a particular number of organizations, and sometimes we try to branch out, but typically when we go with the tried and true internships, it tends to be a better experience, right? Fluent in Thai. Are any of you Thai speakers? No? Any of you out there in Google Hangout land, are you Thai speakers? No? Okay. How many speakers do we have out there? Yeah, Hmong speakers. Sorry, who's I am? I don't have my Google Hangout window open. Sue and Connor both speak Hmong. Chinese, both of you? Connor's in, and you speak Chinese fluently? Okay. So just so you know, as far as I do all of my research in Hmong, but I have spent enough time in Thailand that I can hack my way through Thai. I can do basic Thai. I can get around the country just fine, and very quickly embarrass myself linguistically. That's kind of where my Thai is at. I've never formally studied Thai, but Hmong people code switch between Thai and Hmong enough to where I have a very esoteric vocabulary, things like, government and airplanes, things that Hmong people typically say in Thai when they're speaking Hmong and so on. But I've also developed a basic conversational capacity in Thai. But my main research language is I can understand Green Hmong fairly well and kind of speak in Green Hmong because it's embarrassing for everybody involved. Anyway, what's that? But the thing is, and this is, imperialistic or whatever, but even Green Hmong speakers are typically, no, like, just speak White Hmong and we'll understand you. Green Hmong speakers tend to be able to default into White Hmong fairly proficiently, and that includes in Thailand. But, okay, so yeah, I've given you a sense that, so on the international development internship side, you would be doing whatever this organization needs you to do as an intern, right? And that's going to vary pretty significantly from internship to internship. On the field school side, basically, we will bring all of you into a central location in Chiang Mai on Thursday and on Sunday. Church, and then we'll probably maybe go out to lunch afterwards or something, and maybe have some relatively short meeting and catch up, resolve any issues or problems, logistics, and so on. Then, send you back out to where you're all living. And then on Thursday, we'll bring you in and we will have a formal class. For those of you doing internships, you may only come to part of that, where we talk about, say, the cultural stuff that's more relevant to you, whereas for the field schoolers, we will spend a longer time actually formally training you in ethnographic research methods, talking about the problems you're encountering, how to overcome those problems, how to ask your questions more effectively, and so on and so forth. And then the rest of the time that week, you are working on your projects. I dare say that the field schoolers are probably going to be putting in more hours overall than the internship people, because after your internship, you may go do something else. But if you're doing the field school thing, there are always field notes to write, right? And there are always interviews to go back and listen to. And if you're going to do a joint internship project, all more fun. Maybe you can sneak out and write some of those field notes during your day. But you do your 40 hours during the thing, whatever they're asking you to do. Maybe it's more like 30 hours, something like that. Again, it varies from organization to organization. But then you're going home and you're writing up your field notes and fastidiously tracking your observations and all that stuff. Bottom line, it is hard work, but it's some of the funnest hard work you'll ever do. Really, field work is the thing that absolutely sold me on anthropology. There's a reason that I'm willing, despite some of the gasps of some of my colleagues in other disciplines that just frankly don't get it. But there's a reason that I'm motivated to take students back to the field every summer, because fieldwork is the thing that I love about anthropology. I really enjoy writing too, but fieldwork is where I really enjoy my quality of life. Hanging out in shaman ceremonies, getting to know people and to become like deep, close personal friends with people that are sharing their life experiences with you, and you're trying to develop a genuine sense of empathy of where they're coming from. I mean, these people genuinely come to be some of my best friends in the world. And it's a very enjoyable experience. And, it's mind-blowing, sitting in a shaman ceremony, trying to understand like what the nature of the universe actually looks like from the perspective of people doing this stuff, and trying to piece that interesting puzzle together. It's just fun work. It is hard work. Yourself. It's not, just hanging out in Thailand, riding elephants, and going to sleep at 8 o'clock every night. It's not what we're talking about. It is hard work, but it is incredibly fulfilling and enjoyable. And we have some of my former field schoolers here, as well as Bryce did a field school somewhere else. Has anybody else done a field school yet? Who, you could get their take on what that looks like and feels like and so on. But it is hard work, but it's also some of the funnest hard work you'll ever do. And I don't know if you would all agree with me on that assessment, but we had a good time in France. And staying up late and whatnot, but we had a good time too. So, and for those of you out in Google land, probably don't know, this is the fifth field school that I'm directing. I did one in 2012 in Thailand, not in Chiang Mai, but in my dissertation field site, which we will go visit, I'm sure at some point. That was in 2012. In 2013, I had groups of students each of those summers, similar situation, about 12 weeks, living in a Hmong village, work, with an international trip, similar structure to this program. The difference is this summer we're going to be in Chiang Mai, based in Chiang Mai. I did a program in 2015, which was on the China-Vietnam borderland. We were half the time in Vietnam, half the time in China. And then 2016, just this past summer, I took a group and we lived in a French village that had a big Hmong population in that community. So this is the fifth ethnographic field school that I will have directed. This is the first time I'm directing the International Development Internship Program, but the people who have been directing it are close colleagues of mine. I've gotten to know the students in these programs while I've been directing my programs. And one of my close late colleagues, Ralph Brown was the person who created all of these internship connections and so on. And he was actually in sabbatical in Thailand the year I was doing my dissertation fieldwork. So I got to know Ralph quite well, actually, as well as the ins and the outs of his program. Let's see. I think I've probably covered the basics and trying to give you sort of a richer sense collectively of what this looks like and feels like. Maybe we'll start with you people in Google Hangout land. Do you have any questions for me? Do any of you have any questions? So if I'm not mistaken, one is whether daylight savings or the regular standard time. One of those puts us exactly 12 hours off, and the other one, because there's no daylight savings in Thailand, puts us 11 hours off. Basically the other side of the planet, right? Listen, read. So yeah, it's basically 12 hours off. Go ahead.
So you said that we will learn some language. Do you ever have translators?
Yes. So, okay. First of all, I am trying to recruit a critical mass of fluent Hmong speakers, only for the field school, right? For the internships, people in these organizations have enough of a functional capacity in English to where you will basically get by speaking English and maybe learning a little bit of Thai in most cases. For the field school, and this is important, be living, those of you that did the France field school, it's probably going to be more like Korea. I gather you were all pretty well spread out.
No.
Oh, you weren't?
There's a central apartment where there's like 6 girls.
Okay.
Everyone else had like on the other side.
Okay, so it's going to be not like that. It's going to be just
spread out or really together.
People are going to be spread out, basically. Those of you living, those of you doing the Hmong work, I haven't decided exactly which community I'm going to place you in. I'm going in January, just so you know, for several weeks, and I'm going to finalize these details. You will, in all likelihood, be living in a Hmong community about 45 minutes outside of Chiang Mai, which means, you know, the Sunday and the Thursday, you'll come in for, you know, church and class and all that stuff. And then the other days of the week, you're up in the village and so on. Those of you living with the internships, you are going to be living with a host family in close proximity to the actual location of the internship. Wherever the shelter or the orphanage is, basically, you'll be living relatively close to that location. And those locations range from, you know, in the city itself to, say, a half hour, basically in the suburbs of the city itself. But most people will be, say, within an hour on a Song Tower pickup or somebody's car or something from Chiang Mai itself. Most of you quite a bit closer than that. But yeah, the deal with translators is I'm trying to recruit a critical mass of fluent Hmong speakers. And basically, when you're going out and doing participant observation or doing interviews and so on, you will be accompanied by translators. The idea is to have probably for this size group maybe 2 translators who are spending their time both doing their own projects, but also I provide some financial aid to those translators to spend some time working with you and doing interpretation while you're doing interviews and observation and so on. Basically, the whole model is that you're collaboratively, we try and set it up so that the as common interest as possible between the interpreter and the interpretees, so that when you're out doing stuff together, you're all getting useful data. The interpreter's just making sure you're on board with what's going on in the conversation. Right? Yeah. Hmong. Research side, just to be clear, the ethnographic research side is Hmong centric, okay? You're going to be working primarily, unless, like if you speak Thai and you have particular interest in some Thai cultural phenomenon, I'm potentially open to that. But outside of that, we're doing Hmong is culture here, okay? Which means you're doing stuff in Hmong through Hmong interpreters. Yeah. My language skills are very interesting because everywhere I travel in Southeast Asia, slight exception of Thailand because I do some Thai. I don't speak the majority language, and then when I get to the areas where all the Hmong people live, I'm speaking Hmong, and then all of a sudden the Vietnamese people are turning around like, how do you speak that language and you don't speak Vietnamese? Or the Chinese people are saying the same thing, or the Thais are saying the same thing. Thai, it's funny, in the walking street markets, when I first started networking into these Hmong communities, dumbfounded that this American was speaking this Highland minority language and none of them could speak it. Which tells you something actually about the dynamics of discrimination and so on of the Highland ethnic minority groups like Hmong and so on. But yeah.
What's the transportation like? Twice a week, how?
So let me Google a picture of Song Tao and I'll show you. Let's do another one here. Search. So I'll share my screen again. So this is a song tao. Tao is basically two bench. It means song is two and benches. Let me see if I can get well, here's more options here. You can see in the back of one. So you see in the back there are people sort of facing each direction. There are two benches in the back of the truck and it has this cover. So when it's, pouring outside, you're only getting a little wet. But basically, this is the de facto mode of transportation around Chiang Mai, and it's very convenient. Basically, 20 baht, which is about 60 cents. It may have gone up, but that'll take you anywhere within the city. And we will provide some funds for you, by the way, when you're living further out. We will provide funds for you to come in Sundays and Thursdays. That is actually a budget for that. But these song taos is the other thing that people call these, red truck. But that's sort of the standard mode of transportation. Who has been to Thailand before? Okay. How long were you there?
Just over a month.
How did you like riding around the song tails?
I never rode one. A rural village outside.
Okay. Huh. Okay, yeah. Anyway, getting in and around the greater Chiang Mai area, the song tails, and some of them, the extra urban ones are yellow or some other colors or whatnot, but typically coming into or out of town, you're riding in the back of one of these. Riding one this summer. Other questions? Yeah.
Will we have access to internet?
So, okay, so a couple words about Thailand. Thailand is developed Southeast Asian countries, meaning that, Wi-Fi and hipster coffee shops abound. Now that's in Chiang Mai. Once you get up into the village, that up into the highlands or the hills, that changes pretty quickly. But Chiang Mai itself, it's a bustling, yet it feels much more like a quaint town than it is. It really is a big bustling city with a lot going on. And there are neighborhoods where it's like nothing but, hipster ties and coffee shops and whiskey bars, right? And, where people are watching, football nonstop. That's, soccer for those of you that don't know. And then there are other neighborhoods where it's like, dense tourism stuff. And then there are other neighborhoods where it's just like, and things of that sort. But there's plenty of Wi-Fi in and around Chiang Mai. There are no promises about what type of connectivity your host families have. But at the same time, what I do is I buy a SIM card and I use the mobile services are relatively cheap. And there's, 3G, 4G internet is pretty readily available. I would be surprised if any of you were beyond the 3G internet signal through a SIM card on your phone. And then if you're close to the city, there are probably plenty of coffee shops around that have a decent internet connection. Any other questions? Any questions out there in Google Hangout land?
Oh, I just realized.
Yeah, so if you want to look at my publications, so my website there, you can look at my CV. It's actually kind of out of date. Will you put this on your list to, let's update my CV on the site. I need to do that, I haven't done that in a while. But you can look at a list of my publications by going to that web link that I just gave you. Basically just jacobrhickman.byu.edu. And you can see, I need to update it. I have several publications that are not, this is actually a fairly old CV. I probably have 3 or 4 more publications that need to go up on there. If you go to, the other thing you could do is go to my BYU site, and I think you can actually download a lot of them. Anthropology.byu.edu. Our Department of Anthropology homepage. Load here. There we go. Faculty and staff. And faculty. Scroll down and find the most debonair guy on the list here. That's not me. You click on my name here, and then here you can actually direct directly to some of the PDFs of some articles. I also need to update this. But one place you could start, I mean, one circulate to students most frequently is this this piece right here. If you're looking at my screen share, make that a little bit bigger. This piece actually is my first publication, I should say, in the journal Annals of Anthropological Practice. Is it the spirit of the body, syncretism of health beliefs among Hmong immigrants to Alaska? Then this one right here is my dissertation, which was a comparative ethnography of Hmong families, refugees from Laos who resettled in Thailand and the United States, a comparison of refugees that went to both places. And then another one I'd point you to is this ancestral personhood and moral justification. If you want to start reading about some of my stuff on Hmong, those are the 3 pieces I would point you to in particular. We will cover in the prep class, okay, quick clarification. There's the 3-credit Hmong language, culture, and history class. And then there's another 1-credit prep class that is required for everybody. You don't have to take it for credit if you're outside of BYU, but I do require you to attend via video conference. And that will be basically 6 sessions for about 2 hours. We'll probably do it Thursday nights from 6 to 8, leading up to the program. That's the 2nd block of winter semester. So we're talking about basically like March and the first 2 weeks of April, roughly, okay? We'll find a time, once we know everybody who's actually in the program, we will find a time that we can make work for everybody. But in the past, that's been like Thursday nights from 6 to 8 for 6 consecutive weeks. And in that, we take care of the logistics, get you enrolled for your health insurance, your student travel health insurance, you know, deal with passport issues, make sure everybody's, basically give you all the information you need to know to show up in the right place in the right time and make sure we don't, you know, make sure we can find each other in Bangkok, among other things. Things to prepare, how to, you know, money issues, phone issues, basically all the logistics to get ready and meet there, as well as some of the substantive intellectual issues. So called the prep class. The other class, the Hmong language, culture, and history class, is not the logistics, but we will cover language, culture, and history class. We will read an extensive array of literature about both Thailand and Hmong stuff. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all for coming. know if you want, feel free to give me a call if you have questions. On my website there that I just showed you, jacobrhickman.byu.edu, my cell phone's on there. Feel free to call or text if you just have a quick question or whatever. If you want a longer conversation, I'd encourage you to sign up for my office hours. There's a link there too as well. And yeah. And again, if you're serious about the program, I'd encourage you within the next couple of days to at least go start an application so I can get a sense of who those people are. Just to give you a sense, from the conversations I've had with students, it looks like we probably have, I think I could probably pick the 10-ish people. I guess what I'm saying is we're getting close to a point where the program, by those who have expressed a serious interest in the program. I'm still looking to solidify some Hmong speakers, but outside of that, I think we're getting close to the number that we will end up taking. The size of that group will be about probably 10 to 12 people, just so you all know. So I've done a group of 20 to Vietnam and China, and we probably won't do a group of 20 anytime soon. Again, that was just too big. Anyway. All right. So if you people out there in Google Hangout land don't have any other questions, I'm going to sign off. You've got my email, my contact information. So if you have any questions or whatnot, let me know, okay? 继续多呢。